The saddest part about getting older is realizing that most relationships do not end with a fight. They do not end with some huge dramatic moment. They do not end because suddenly one person stopped caring. A lot of the time, they end up in a much quieter way. Life gets busy. Hold up. A lot of the time, they end in a much quieter way. Life gets busy. Work gets loud. You move, they move. You both mean to reach out. You both think about each other. You both still care. The check-in never happens. Weeks turn into months, and months turn into weird feelings where it now feels awkward to reach out. That's right there is how a lot of good relationships die. Because it's not because anybody was evil. It's not because anybody was fake. Not because the relationship was worthless. Because life gets noisy. Most people do not have a system for staying connected. I think that is one of the biggest hidden problems in modern life, because we're surrounded by systems for everything except for the people we care about. We have systems for work, we have systems for sales, we have systems for content, we have systems for tasks, we have systems for fitness, we have systems for money. When it comes to relationships, most people are just hoping that they remember, hoping that they reach out in time, hoping that the right person does not slip through the cracks. And hope is not a strategy, especially when life gets full. This is the part that hits hard, because a lot of thoughtful people blame themselves for this. They say that I'm bad at keeping in touch. I'm a bad friend. I've always forget to reply. I let too much time pass. I do not even think that is the real problem most of the time. I think the real problem is that caring is not the same thing as having a system. You can deeply care about somebody and still forget. You can genuinely want to check in with people and still let time slip by. You can think highly of someone and still lose touch with them. Not because they mattered less, because life got louder more than your memory. If you ever had that feeling where you randomly think about someone from your past and you immediately feel a little guilty because you realize I really should have reached out to them sooner, that is exactly what I mean. It's not about you did not care. Is that the relationships you were being managed by chance. It's that the relationships you have were being managed by chance. Chance is terrible at protecting what matters. Because chance does not remember birthdays. Chance does not remember that somebody had a big interview this week. Chance does not remember that your friend was going through a breakup last month. Chance does not remember that you met someone amazing at an event and meant to follow up 2 days later. Chance does not remember that you had that one small check-in at the right time could keep a relationship warm. Chance just lets things drift. That's the scary thing, is that drift feels harmless in the moment. That is why people do not notice it until later. Nobody wakes up one day and says, I want to slowly lose touch with the people who matter to me. Nobody wakes up one day and says, I want to slowly lose touch with people who matter to me. That was never the goal. What actually happens is much more ordinary. I will text them tomorrow. I will follow up with them this week. I will check in with them when things get calm. I will get back to them when I have more energy. Things do not calm down. The week moves fast. Later becomes next month. Now the relationship has just cooled off, enough to make reaching out feel heavier than it should. This is why I think relationship decay is one of the biggest unspoken problems for busy people, especially for people who are ambitious, founders, builders, creators, professionals, people growing into new stages of life. Because when your life expands, your attention gets fragmented. You meet more people, you take on more responsibility, you have more to manage. Without realizing it, the people who once felt easy to stay close to now require intention. Not because the bond is fake, because your life is fuller. That creates a weird intention. Because on one side, you feel like you're building a bigger life. On the other side, your relationships are quietly becoming harder to maintain. Most people do not have the language for that. They just feel it. They feel disconnected. They feel behind. They feel guilty. They feel like they're falling apart. They feel like they're failing the people they care about. What makes this worse is that the modern internet gives people a fake sense. What makes this worse is that modern internet gives people a fake sense of connection. Because you can watch someone's story and like their posts and see their update, maybe send a quick reaction, and it tricks your brain into thinking you are staying connected. Passive awareness is not the same as active connection. Knowing what somebody posted is not the same as checking in on their actual life. Seeing that someone exists online is not the same as maintaining a real relationship. And I think a lot of people are living inside that illusion right now. They are digitally aware of each other, relationally distant. That gap keeps growing. What is the fix? I do not think the fix is to become someone perfectly organized, like a robot, who treats every relationship like a spreadsheet. I don't think that's the point. I think the point is to remove humanity from relationships. The point is not to remove humanity from the relationships. The point is to protect relationships from randomness. That is the big difference, because randomness is what makes people drift apart. Randomness is what lets important conversations never happen. Randomness is what turns good intentions into missed timing. The answer is to not become less human. The answer is to support humanity with the system. The way that you care that way your care actually has structure behind it. That way people who matter most do not have to compete with every notification, every task, every deadline, every distraction in your life. That way your relationships stop being managed by accident, because the truth is the strongest relationships are not built on chemistry alone. They are built on consistency. Small moments, timely follow-up, remembering what matters, showing up when it counts. None of that has to be fake. In fact, it becomes more real when it's intentional, because intentionality is how you prove care over time. I think that is especially important for people who hate traditional networking, because a lot of people hear the word networking and immediately picture of fake smiles, shallow conversations, and only reaching out when you need something. Real relationship building is not that. Real relationship building is actually remembering. Real relationship building is checking in with no hidden agenda. Real relationship building is following up because that person matters, not because you need a favor. Real relationship building is staying warm, not just staying visible. The reason why I care so much about this is because I think too many people are losing great relationships, not from malice, from a lack of infrastructure. That mentor you respected, that friend you loved talking to, that person you met at a conference who really got into what you're building, that cousin that you wanted to get closer to, that old friend you still care about even though it has been way too long, those relationships do not usually disappear all at once. They fade through neglect that nobody intended. Once I started seeing this pattern, I could not unsee it. I realized that a lot of people do not need help caring more, they need help remembering better. They need help reaching out at the right time too. They need help keeping warm relationships warm. They need help turning good intentions into actual action. That is a completely different problem that most apps are trying to solve, because technology is trying to help you move faster, produce more, optimize harder, squeeze the most out of your everyday. I think some of the best technology should also help you protect what actually matters. For a lot of people, what actually matters is not another task getting done. It's not another piece of content being posted. It's not another productivity truck. It's the people in your life who make everything else feel meaningful. And if those people are slipping through the cracks, then your systems are incomplete. That is why I keep coming back to this idea that relationships are not just vibes. They're a system too. Not some cold robotic way. In a sense that what matters needs support. Because if you leave something valuable unmanaged in a noisy world, it usually drifts. I do not think that should be the fault for something as important as a human connection. That is a huge part of why I built Everreach. It's not because I think people need another app just to have another app, because I think too many meaningful relationships are being lost to randomness. And I want to build something that helps people stay connected in a way that feels warm, natural, and human and thoughtful. Something that helps people remember who matters and why they matter and the context of that relationship. Something that helps people follow through on who they care about and who they have already cared about. Something that helps stop the friendship fade before it becomes permanent. Because the best relationships in your life usually do not need some giant grand gesture. They just need timely attention, a simple check-in, a remembered detail, a little consistency, a small amount of worth before too much time passes, When you start thinking about it like that, you realize the goal is not to become a perfect relationships. The goal is to stop leaving them fully open to chance. So if this hits home at all, I want you to think about just one person, just one. Someone you care about, someone you respect, and someone you've been meaning to reach out to. Do not overthink it. Do not wait for the perfect words. Do not wait until life gets calm. Just send the message. Because a lot of the relationships do not need a miracle. They just need somebody to go first.